y'all, it's Laura and welcome back to another process video. This one's gonna have a whole bunch of photos on it, and I'm using the leftover bits of this chipboard piece that held a whole bunch of frames from a Pink Fresh Studio collection. I think it was Joyful Day, pretty sure. And I popped all the frames out and realized that this piece would make a really good collage piece. So I peeled off all the chipboard layers at the back so it wouldn't have all of that bulk. And I'm going to tape in my photos. Now I have 6 photos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6. 6 photos of the really awesome eclipse from 2017. It was from August 2017, and here in the United States we had a front row view of this solar eclipse. It was a full eclipse here in the US and it was amazing. So I had this photo here in the oval shape that came from online because we do not have a camera that could take that good of a photo of the eclipse. It was quite far away. And so I printed that off from online, and then I printed off a bunch of photos, of my kids and my mother-in-law looking through those special solar eclipse glasses, and also a picture of the makeshift solar eclipse box or viewer that was going around. So we made a couple of those out of cereal boxes, which we always have a lot of. And it was really neat. It was a really, really cool experience. I will say that I am very, very happy that I was able to get so many photos on the page, and I will definitely be doing this again in the future because I had intended these photos to be a 2-page layout because I knew I think there's 2 more photos for it actually, and I was actually thinking I was going to have to do a 2-page layout and maybe even a 6x12 insert in between because I had so many photos that I wanted to scrap. But I decided instead I'm going to collage them all together with this chipboard piece, and that way I really do only need 2 pages. And so I'm really excited I was able to get so many in this one collage, but it turns out a little bit, it becomes a little busy, and embellishing it was a little tricky. I ended up going really simple on the embellishing, which is not typically my style. I do love my florals, and there are no florals on this one. I actually went for more of a star theme, which made sense in the moment because it's the sun. The sun is a star. It's space related. I'm not really sure. But I just decided to go ahead and use my stash kit for November for this one. So once I get all of these photos taped on, I will also tape on a journaling spot and a piece of pattern paper to just kind of differentiate the squares a little bit, give them a different purpose so everything is filled in. I don't make you watch the entire process, but I wanted to leave in enough of it so that you could replicate this for yourself if you decide to give this a go with some chipboard pieces that you have left. So now that I have everything but the cards and paper added in, here I'm using a 3x4 journaling card to add in a little journaling spot where I will add in all kinds of thoughts about the eclipse, how cool it was, and how it's one of those memories I don't think my kids are ever going to forget because it was just so incredible to be able to see the sun completely covered by the moon. That was just absolutely wonderful. So here I'm adding this really bright stripe here in the corner, and that's going to help me bring in all the colors from those photos and what I thought was going to be a pretty heavily embellished layout, but it turns not to go that direction. I went with a very large title instead, which you may have seen from the thumbnail of this video, and I think that really helped me in the embellishing department because I wasn't really sure where to put the embellishments. This collage takes up a lot of space on a page, and generally speaking, if I use a lot of photos, I tend to go very simple with the embellishments because otherwise it just feels like I'm trying to compete with them, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So I did decide to use this checked background as my photo mat for the entire piece because that gave it a really nice contrast with the white chipboard, and I thought it was just a fun pop that help draw your eye straight into the photos. I also have this yellow tile background, and at first I was going to use the whole page, but then once I got to looking at it, realized that it was kind of busy and I did want to add something to it, though at this point I didn't know what. So I decided instead I'm going to cut off a piece for this secondary mat behind my photos and then put it onto white cardstock. That way I would have a nice contrast between the black and white pop on that yellow tile on the white background. Which again, playing with contrast can make your photos really pop. My photos are a little dark in some areas, and by having that nice bright white background, it helps to draw your attention into the part that's different, and in this case, that is the photos. Now, I am going to use washi tape on this layout. I know that's a rare thing for me, but I do put down some double-sided tape first just to make sure that it stays put, and then I'm going to use this Vicki Boutin Tell Your Story washi tape that I really like as the top kind of barrier to my photos. And I'm going to end up using some more of it at the bottom, but we're not there just yet. So I'm bringing in my title. I'm not exactly sure what I want to say, but I do want to mention, of course, it is an eclipse, and I was trying to find a clever way to work the title eclipse into the design of the page. So at first I'm just going to pull out enough letters to say solar eclipse, and I was going to try to kind of wedge this little the good stuff in between the word eclipse there, and it just doesn't quite fit. I think it would have been really cool to do if it did just kind of nestle in there perfectly, but it does not. So I end up rethinking this title and trying to think of a clever way to tell about the eclipse without being quite this obvious. Solar eclipse. Oh boy. That's a very, very literal title. So after playing around with this, trying to figure out if I should put it on the left, put it on the right, move it to the bottom, wasn't really sure. I was watching a movie at the same time. That's why I do reach up to hit the go button every once in a while. Next episode. Do you watch things while you scrap, or do you just focus in on your scrapping? Because at the moment I'm watching Madam Secretary on Netflix, that series, and really enjoying it. So I am watching quite a bit of that as I scrap lately. So here I'm just pulling off a branding strip, and then I'm going to use more of this washi tape with tape underneath of it, of course, because I don't trust washi. It just doesn't stay stuck long term. And so now I've got a bottom border, and I realize, wait, I can put my title down here at the bottom and just create kind of a focal image at the top with the title at the bottom, and I can keep my embellishing fairly minimal because I've got this big title that kind of stands on its own. And then it comes to me. There is an 80s era song called Total Eclipse of the Heart. I think there's a lyric anyway that's Total Eclipse of the Heart. And I thought, wouldn't it be cute if I did a total eclipse of the sun? And so that's what I'm gonna do. Using a variety of thickers here. The black ones are a glitter thicker that are chipboard, and then these gold ones are smaller and they are foam. I don't really care if I switch those up or add them to each other. It's totally fine. I do have to modify the E because I don't have any little E's left. So I will take an F, put it in the place of the E, and then I'll steal another little part from another letter to finish out that E. So it's really easy to modify letters like this that are very, very straightforward shapes. They're nice straight lines mostly, and so it's pretty easy to modify. I'm going to take the section off of a Q, I believe, because who needs Q's? I don't ever use Q's, except on my mother-in-law's dog, Quigley. But I don't scrap many photos of him, so it's fine. But I thought it was a very clever title, and I was really excited to use it, and it fit perfectly across the bottom of my layout, which I thought was excellent. So instead of adding a border underneath of my photos, I just ran my pen underneath of them. That gave it a nice outline and finished it off without adding a big thick border. I'm going to bring in some acrylic stars. A lot of these, I think there was some acrylic and some wood veneer. I don't remember if I used them all, but those will get to stay. These florals will not. I did want to leave this in though so you could see some of the things that I tried, some of the things that maybe could have worked, but I just felt like florals didn't fit the feel of this layout. I wanted to make them work. They were the right color. They would have fit really nicely in some of these spots, but this was about a solar eclipse, and I just didn't feel like the flowers quite fit, especially this photo on the left of the eclipse itself. It just felt really stark, and these florals just didn't seem to go. It was a cute idea, but in the end, not a great one. So I will end up pulling those back off and just sticking with the stars mostly. I do end up putting one ephemera piece where that rainbow paper is, and just to give it something to fill that space. But I think my ultimate way of fixing this embellishment problem was to recognize that I didn't need to add a lot of embellishment onto the collage itself, and instead I should focus underneath of it and filling in some of that space between my title and my photos to kind of bring the two together. So I found this large remember this piece, and I thought, okay, this could work. And so I tried this in a couple of places and eventually decided to put it in the center right underneath of my photos. And once I did that, it gave me the idea to create a bit of a feature underneath of the photos, and it kind of filled in the gap between the collage and the title and just kind of helped flow between the two of them a little bit better. There was also this little scalloped piece in the ephemera pack that I'm using, and so I'm going to cut that in half so I can stretch it further out beyond my remember this, just like that. And that way I get a little bit more for my money, if you will, with that ephemera piece, making it look a lot longer than it actually is. And so then I'm going to bring in a whole bunch of these little stars. A lot of them were acrylic pieces, some of them were some paper stars, and I'm just going to kind of spread them around in a couple of areas on the page. They're going to have kind of a diagonal flow from the top left to the bottom right. And that's just the way those stars are laid out. That helps kind of guide your eye through the photos. So adding a little scattering and splattering, and guess what? This layout's almost done. It was super, super easy to put together, but so much fun. And I was so excited to get so many photos on this layout without it looking super busy and crazy and overwhelming. And instead, I think it turned out really fun. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, bye.